If you created the Aging Room small batch cigar line, the highest rated boutique cigar brand of our times, what would you do next? Well, if you're Rafael Nodal from Boutique Blend Cigars, you would combine your three most important passions of your life Cuba, music, and cigars and create a new classic La Boheme Cigars. La Boheme is Rafael's take on the golden age of Cuban cigars. La Boheme is a sophisticated blend of extra-aged and hard-to-find tobaccos from the Dominican Republic. A medium-bodied cigar, rich in flavors reminiscent of the island he left 35 years ago in a small boat with his family. Why wait for the embargo to be lifted? Smoke La Boheme today. Blending is in our DNA.
Paying homage to the Mecca of tobacco, Pinar del Rio, Cuba, Abe Flores opened his PDR cigar factory in the Dominican Republic over 10 years ago. Abe is one of the hottest boutique cigar makers in the industry today, earning the number 10 spot on Cigar Aficionado's top 25 cigars of 2014 with the Abe Flores 1975 Liga Privada. Abe and his team use Cuban blending traditions in a modern boutique Dominican factory. Smoke PDR cigars and cut, light, and taste what they love to do.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Brought to you by Rocky Patel Premium Cigars, the Tabacero by Hamlet Paredes, developed and blended by Cuban master of tobacco, Hamlet Paredes. This cigar is an exciting addition to the Patel family, featuring traditional and rare sizes hand-picked by Hamlet himself. Smoke Tabacero by Hamlet Paredes today. For more information, visit them on the web at rockypatel.com and be sure to follow Rocky Patel Premium Cigars on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. That's right. This is our Stogies of the Week segment where Will and I talk about what cigars we've been smoking and give it our unique rating system. Will, why don't you kick us off?
Well, I think I'll just get right to it. I did get a chance to smoke I would say, one of the most coveted Fuentes of the year last year, the OpusX Rosado Oscuro in the Robusto. And
Yeah, what'd you think of this one, Will?
spectacular. It had more spice than I anticipated, but that's not a negative. I thought it worked well with it, and it's not by any means a spice bomb either. But I thought it had a nice little spice to it. It had some definite cocoa notes in there. It was one of the best Fuentes I've had. Is the best way to put it.
And that's saying something, Will. They make some really special cigars.
Yeah, I haven't yet decided if I'm going to tag it with the Oasis rating. But I'm definitely in the Chuck Norris, and I believe this is Oasis candidate for sure. But I want to smoke another one to be sure, which I do have another one. I thought the Robusto size. Now this was the first one I smoked of it, but I thought you were right on as far as the Robusto goes, where I just think it all came together with this blend.
I've smoked a couple of the other, maybe one or two other sizes, and it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't at that level of the Robusto. The Robusto to me was Oasis in this Oscuro. Oscuro, right? They call it.
Right, and I believe this will be an Oasis cigar when all's said and done. But it was I smoked it when I smoked it. I smoked it with the intent of kind of giving it a first glance before kind of reviewing it. So I kind of went into it with that. And usually I like to have two cigars to throw the Oasis rating on. But let me tell you something. Get your hands on this cigar
if you can.
If you can, and don't overpay for it. So
yeah, this is a really limited Fuente.
Yeah, I mean I believe it's I think this cigar, if you get the box of 15, right, it's about $250 for the 15 cigars, and you get 5 sizes in there. I saw some prices out there at $750.
No, don't. Yeah, it is an Oasis rated cigar, but.
Yeah, it's not a $50 cigar. It's like a $15 to $20 cigar. It should be.
Yeah. Because it's a Robusto. It's not a 2-hour cigar. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean there's a couple of. I mean the sizes are interesting because they go from like Corona to Churchill in that set.
Yeah.
Have you smoked all 5?
I haven't. No. I
Okay.
don't know if I don't even know if I purchased all 5 sizes.
Okay, I thought you got the whole. So you didn't get a whole box.
I did not get a whole box. No, I got like what was left in a box that had been picked over, and I think 1 or 2 of the sizes were completely sold out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. Smoking this cigar, it really solidified. I think 2015 is a real. No one talked about it. It was a huge year for Fuente, and I'm not just talking the new stuff, but some of the some of the stuff that came out. I'm going back to the Destino Siglos.
Yeah.
That wasn't a new cigar, but that batch they came out with last year
Mhm.
was over the top. I love the the new añejo that came out, the 888.
Yep.
Um,
That was a good cigar.
I mean, the only one that really missed for me, I thought, was Eye of the Shark.
Mhm.
That was really the only miss I thought, but that's not saying it was a bad cigar either.
Right. Speaking of Fuente, I lit up a Power Ranger size. This is that mini. I would call it a short Bellicoso. It's like a Robusto, but it's a Bellicoso size cigar. They call it the Power Ranger. And this one's from 2012. Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal cigar.
Yep.
This,
Yeah.
this was one of Mark Jr.'s favorite sizes.
I remember, and it was actually on your show when I was a listener that I remember. Not that I hadn't heard of the cigar, but kind of got, a lot of people again they don't talk about some of these cigars, and Stogie Geeks has always been, I think, a brand that's talked about that for some time.
Yep, absolutely. I smoked an interesting Candela because, and I'm wearing green, coincidentally enough, because St. Patrick's Day is coming up pretty soon.
You smoked a very old Candela, and it's hard to say that's a very old Candela.
But now, do you agree with me in your assessment, Will, that this is a 2011?
Um, it's a 11. It could be a 12.
Yep, I
It
agree.
looks like the 11 because it's a little. They changed the size with 12 and 13, where it was a 52 from.
But 11 and 12 were both this like 5 by 52 or 5.5 by 52.
They were a little thicker, and this is a 50. It looks like a 50 from your photo, and I have 111 left in my humidor.
Yeah.
And it looks, here's the thing. It looks like it's a 50, but the wrapper,
The color on the
brown.
the
The
color
green is gone.
the color on the wrapper is not as green as their later releases.
No, and that's what's going to happen with Candela.
Yes.
Into your
But even when they initially released the 2011, if you go back and look at pictures, that wrapper is not as green as their later releases. That's why I said it was a 2011. And knowing the time that like a local brick and mortar was carrying this particular cigar, my guess is it's 2011.
From what I know about, and I know where you got it from, yeah. It looks like I said I have some 12s and 13s still. By the way, that 11 when it came out, and I'm curious to see what your rating is. It was a really good Candela, but Candela, that's a 5-year-old Candela you're talking now.
Yeah, yeah, or even 4 if it's a 2012. But anyway,
right. But that's.
I smoked it first thing in the morning. I want to put that out there that I did smoke it as my first cigar of the day. And I tell you what, when I first lit it up, and even through the first third, it had a nice kind of herbal feel to it. You did get a little bit of that Nicaraguan tobacco in the beginning, but mostly it was a touch of herbal, and it was pretty mild to medium bodied in the first half of the of the cigar, and had some nice flavors. However, first thing in the morning when I get into the final third, it had this really like Nicaraguan kind of earth. I don't know if that's a thing or not, right? But it picked up in the earthiness. It had much richer flavors. And I remember commenting, I'm like, this cigar is good, but I'm like, man, it is not the flavors that I really want to experience like first thing with breakfast and coffee in the morning, right? It just got like really rich and kind of earthy and even a little bit of like chocolatey notes from a Candela. And I think a lot of it's come from it has all Nicaraguan filler in it. So the first 2/3 I thought worked in the morning, had that herbalness that was dialed back because it had some age on it. But in that final third, really kind of overwhelmed me with that, earthy, rich, really dark, heavy flavors that don't necessarily go with a morning smoke. Having said that, I did really enjoy smoking it, and I rated it a 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say that's where it may have, when it came out, been a box split. I smoked a lot of those Viaje Candelas. They had them from 2011 to 13.
Yeah.
They were all very different. The 11 was probably the most atypical of the three, while the 13 was the most Candela-like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that was a very good Candela that a lot of people forget about. Like I said, it's hard to believe that if that's the 11 or even the 12, it's 4 to 5 years we're talking about that cigar.
Yeah, and it smokes good.
Yeah, I I always like those. Yeah.
Over to you, Will.
Um, So I got around to smoking the Liga Privada box press Toro from Corona Cigar. That's
I would almost call this a square press.
a square press. Yeah, and it's called box, but I mean, it is
It's like a
almost,
perfect square. The whole
it's like
thing.
yeah. And I just saw your interview actually, and it's going to probably be up soon. The Lito Gomez interview, which you did a great job, and I know you talked about those factory presses.
Yes.
And sometimes when I get these very square presses, I find them to draw very loose.
Yes.
They're,
Which I
they're not
like. I like a looser draw.
on a box press. I like a looser draw because and in this case, it was a very well constructed square press. In that I didn't I was and it was the same thing with the Herrera Esteli. They were well constructed, and I didn't have to. Sometimes I always worry about those getting hot because again, it's a
Right.
looser cigar with a looser draw. But no, this was an excellent cigar. It had everything that you'd expect from a Liga Privada. It had the earthy notes, the cocoa notes. It had an interesting sweetness to it that was a little different. It was a definite different Connecticut broadleaf sweetness I got off that thing, and I thought as far as it was probably in the medium plus range in terms of strength and body. Uh, I gave it a box split. I don't think it's. Here's a couple of things I'll say about this closing notes. I don't think it's when you smoke the Liga Privada in the. I like the Toro and the Robusto, the number 9. Usually you want to smoke those right away out of the box because they don't age well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this cigar, when I smoked it, it's at its peak. So I kind of see. I don't see it getting much better than this. But a box split's really good. It's a fun alternative to smoke. Liga Privada number 9 is a classic blend right now. I mean, it's been out for 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun twist on it, and they did a good job on it.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I smoked one of your favorites, Will. This is a Casa Fernandez Aniversario Series 2015 LF Celine.
Oh yeah.
This is the one with that white, very distinct white packaging, the white sleeve that comes on the cigar.
Yep.
And despite the obvious damage that was apparent in my photo of this cigar, I don't know if you saw that or not, Will. This one was apparently, you sent me one a while ago, and it was kicking around in my humidor and received some damage, which is probably the reason why I didn't smoke one. But you sent me another one recently. But I went back and I wanted to smoke the one that was sitting in my humidor for a while.
I didn't realize I sent you one before. Okay.
Yeah, or I acquired. You must have sent me this one before.
Is that the 14?
Oh, maybe it's the 14.
I'm looking at this. This looks like you smoked the 14 here.
No, no, you're right. It is a 14. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
So this is the 14. That would explain.
This is a box press. Yeah.
A slight, it's like a slight box press to it.
Yeah. So this is the Aries. The 14 was called the Aries. Yeah.
Thank you. Good eye. This was a really good cigar. It had some nice spice, wood notes, touch of sweetness. It had a lot going on in this cigar for me. And I thought it was a really great offering. I called it a box split. And I kind of, in my rating, I took into account that it was damaged. And I didn't take away any points because the damage was 100% my fault in this case. So, no, good cigar. The wrapper is delicate. I think that's why. It was just ended up mishandled in my humidor.
It is a delicate wrapper. It's a very, I haven't smoked a 14 probably in almost a year.
Yeah.
So that was a box worthy cigar when it came out. So your rating, I think, is pretty much, it could very well be, I think that's fine. I think when you smoke the rounded one, you're going to get a very different experience from that blend.
Yeah, because you like the 2015, I think, a little better.
Yeah, I think that's been and the 13's really good. I have an unopened box of 13s. I got to open them because they're sitting in my humidor.
Nice.
They are, and they are fantastic. So I think they're all great. I would say the 13 and the 15 are probably the ones that stand. And there's a Lancero with the 15 as well, which
Nice.
yeah.
Cool. Back to you, Will.
I smoked a cigar, and it's from friend Fred Rui. It is the Nomad Esteli Lot 8613. Uh, and this is a cigar he's released it about a year ago already. Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, all Nicaraguan binder and filler. If you've heard Fred on the show, he loves playing with that Ometepe tobacco, and he certainly played with this with this blend. Um, really enjoyed it. A lot of nice sweetness I got from this cigar. A little bit of a cherry note, great cedar note in there. Little chocolate mixed in there. As far as it's a medium cigar, so Fred doesn't make any cigars that are gonna knock you over with nicotine, and they're not gonna be
Mm-hmm.
very heavy on the palate. I know you really like this cigar, and I think it's a good spot in Fred's portfolio. He had a lot of box presses, so I think this is a rounded cigar, which I think he needed some of them right now. Box split in my book. I thought it's a solid cigar.
Now, I had also on there Nomad Connecticut Fuerte Robusto.
Yeah. You had on. Yes.
That's the Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I smoked it, and it had some pretty bold flavors for a Connecticut, and I suspect that a lot of us will like those bold flavors, but whatever flavors I was getting just didn't agree, with my palate. Maybe it was my palate at the time, because I have like a lot of the Nomad cigars in some of his Connecticut's as well. But this one in the Robusto side just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I rated it to try one. I recommend you do try one because it might be in your wheelhouse. I think it's a very polarizing cigar. If you're going to like these flavors, you're really going to like them. For me, it just didn't. It didn't sit with me.
I thought it was a good cigar, the Robusto. It definitely is a little more of a ballsy Connecticut.
Mm.
Um, I really liked what Fred did with the Therapy Connecticut, which is more of a traditional Connecticut. I don't remember what if I smoked. I think I smoked the Toros of this, and it probably somewhere between fibers and box splits with those. But like I said, it's probably not a Connecticut. And Fred wasn't trying to create a Connecticut for everybody with that cigar.
Yeah, yeah. Back to you, Will.
Um, okay. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, we both have this cigar, so I'll just talk
Oh,
about it
okay.
right now.
Good.
Um, I smoked the Rocky Patel Vintage 2013 Cameroon in the
2003.
2003. I said 13. Yes,
Yeah,
2000
2003.
Vintage 2003 in the Cameroon in the Torpedo.
Oh,
So say
okay.
that. Yeah,
Good.
yeah. And I think this is a cigar we got from the folks at Rocky Patel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I had never smoked this in a torpedo before.
I had neither. No.
I've had this blend. I like this blend. I think he makes a really solid Cameroon, but I've never had it in the torpedo. And I really, really thought this worked well in the torpedo. There's a lot going on with the cigar. What I'll say to you is smoke it more undistracted. It's got some nice natural tobacco. It's got that sweetness. You're gonna get that sweetness from the Cameroon wrapper, and I think it works real well in that compressed, going into the compressed area of the tip.
Mm-hmm.
So I had it as a box worthy. I it was this is probably I overlooked this size, and I'll tell you what, I liked it in this torpedo quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I So I thought I smoked a lot of different Rocky Patel cigars, actually, because they sent up some samples, and I actually picked some up from my local B&M as well, some ones that I hadn't smoked before. And I didn't want to overload the show with Rocky Patel cigars, so I picked the one that I liked the best out of the bunch. And let me tell you, there's something in there for everyone in this Rocky Patel line.
Yeah.
And this one for me, as far as our Stogie Geeks listeners are concerned, I highly recommend that you try this one. I thought this cigar was great. I rated it a box split, Will. So just in the same wheelhouse as you.
Yeah.
I can see your rating a box worthy, absolutely. This had some awesome flavors, nicely balanced. It had some of that cedar component to balance off a little bit of that sweetness that you get from the Cameroon. It had some spice. It was smooth. I enjoyed smoking this cigar. I would absolutely, hands down, smoke a lot more. I think it's one of my favorite Rocky Patel cigars that I've smoked recently. Other than that 20th anniversary Lancero was in a class of its own, in my opinion. I think as a Stogie Geeks listener, if you're going to go through the line and try some Rocky Patel, you definitely want to seek this one out. This was great. It was an awesome smoking Cameroon too, which that wrapper can be tricky. In this one smoked great, awesome flavors, and again, it's a box split.
Yeah, disclaimer. Hey, look, Rocky Patel, they're a sponsor of the show, but I'm going to say this, and I'll say it's if they're a sponsor or not. Rocky, we hear something about consistency, this, consistency, that. That cigar was released in the fall of 2011. It's a 4.5-year-old cigar. They've been making it. I've smoked this blend quite a bit over the years. I said never smoked the Torpedo. The consistency's there with this particular blend.
Mm-hmm.
It smokes exactly as it did in 2011 for the most part. Like I said, I haven't smoked the Torpedo per se, but I've smoked other sides of this. This is a really good Cameroon out there. Great
Yeah.
regular production Cameroon.
Yep, I agree. Back to you, Will.
Okay.
Or do you want to hear about my? You want to hear
Go
about
ahead, go ahead, Paul.
my fishing? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but I know that one of the TV personalities that I get a kick out of, largely because he's from New England. He's from the Massachusetts area, and he has a fishing show. It's called Charlie Moore Outdoors. And Charlie Moore's always smoking a cigar. And in most, I would say 90% of his shows, you'll see Charlie enjoying a cigar while he's on the boat. Sometimes when they're, shooting some filming afterwards, he has a cigar. And I really identify with that, right? Because he fishes in a lot of the same, people are out there in the fishing, right? But it's the same kind of waters in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, freshwater fishing. He's fishing for the same kind of fish in the similar kind of conditions. And he puts a great spin on his show. It's not like your fishing shows that you might have think of where, there's a guy sitting on the boat and he's talking about what kind of lures he's using, right? Charlie Moore is an awesome show. It's so entertaining. I mean, he took the fishing show to a next level, and he's always smoking cigars. I didn't know this, but I don't know how long ago they did this, Will. Was it a year or two, or he did a project with Quesada?
Yeah.
To have his own cigar.
Actually, a newer project. 14 it came out.
Okay. And this is the Trelos Saria?
Yeah.
Trelos Saria. We'll go with that. Trelos Saria. And I smoked the Connecticut, which comes in a Churchill size.
7x56.
Yeah. And this cigar started off great. I tell you what, I mean, it's a mild cigar. Don't smoke this any other time at first thing in the morning. Super mild cigar. Which is it's interesting when you think about when I would smoke this cigar. It would be at 5 o'clock in the morning in the summer when I'm out on the boat fishing and I want to light up a cigar. Perfect cigar for that scenario. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not, but this is a first thing in the morning cigar. You don't even need to eat before you smoke this cigar. The first half, I would say, has a great sweetness. It's mild. There's not a whole lot of body to it. But you get a nice sweetness, a little touch of hay off of that Connecticut wrapper. Great cigar. As the cigar progressed, it kind of lost some steam in the second half. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just it loses a little steam. You don't get as much of that sweetness, but it's still a good cigar, enjoyable smoke. I would call this one a 5-er.
So I'll be honest, I have not smoked this cigar. It's a very limited cigar. I think they only did a run of 1,000 boxes, and I don't even know if that's annual or not. But it comes in two blends. There's a Oscuro, and you smoke the Connecticut Shade.
And I have the Oscuro, which I'll try and review for next week.
Are they packaged in the same box? That I don't know.
I think they're separate. I don't know. Someone bought this on my behalf. Because there are two shops in Rhode Island that carry them. If you look at where they're distributed, Will, it's very much in New England, and I think that stems from Charlie Moore's in New England.
Yep.
In the two shops in Rhode Island aren't ones that I frequent that often. Great shops. I'm just not in that area Rhode Island's the smallest state in the world, but we tend to, if we have to drive really far, really far is like 20-minute drive is really far in Rhode Island. So, but one of my buddies was going to the shop, and he picked me up some. So I don't know exactly what the packaging looks like. He did say they had quite a few. So next time I'm in that area, I do plan to stop by and pick up some more. So
Yeah, it was very much more of a regional release by Quesada because I have not seen them, and we have some big Quesada retailers in the southeast. There's a couple in Charlotte that are big, and they don't have this cigar. Um, you know what Trailer Cesaria means?
no, what does it mean? I didn't.
What's Charlie Moore's nickname?
The Mad Fisherman.
It means mad fish.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Um, so no, we have to try to get Charlie on the show.
Dude, I would be like so excited if Charlie Moore came here in studio. I would be that's on my bucket list, dude, is
Yeah,
to have Charlie Moore in here in studio for an interview. They could film while we were doing the filming. They do a lot of that on the show. I mean, a lot of the unique ways in which they film a show, I just admire. I think it's awesome the way they film a show. It's just, you have to watch the show, Will, even if you're not into fishing. Just see Charlie, right, and just hear the things he says because he's really funny. But also watch the way they film that show. You know, like if we could bring some of that filming into this show, that would be great. I mean, they just do some really creative things as to the way they film the show. So,
Yeah. They just, I kind of got to just check with them. They are packaged separate.
okay.
So there's two sizes of those. Yeah, I mean, definitely, we talked to Phil, just in the segment, again, we talked about these debonair ideas, these conduits, these segments.
Right.
Here great one. They've tapped into the fishing segment.
Right.
Cigars and fishing. I mean, you do a lot of fishing from what I know, right?
Well, before I had all these kids.
Yeah.
I did. Now when I go fishing, I take my kids with me, and they're younger. My kids are 7 and 2, so it's not really conducive to sitting on the boat, relaxing, having a cigar. But when I do get out there and fish, even with my kids, we'll fish off the dock and stuff, and I will have a cigar. But it's very conducive to fishing and smoking. They just go together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So
back to you, Will.
I smoked a offshoot of the CAO Flathead line. So I think if folks are familiar with CAO Flathead, it's a Connecticut broadleaf line that it got the number 3 cigar of the year from Aficionado, so it's gotten a lot of press. And they kind of built that cigar line around an automotive theme with the whole car engines there. Well, they kind of came off with an offshoot for motorcycle fans. And they call it the Flathead Steel Horse. And the Steel Horse is a name that's used for motorbikes. You hear it in the Bon Jovi song, "On a Steel Horse I Ride."
Yeah, please don't. I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan, dude. Don't.
That's the only Bon Jovi song I like. I'll be honest. No, yeah, not gonna be in my Dave Burke music segment. No, he's
not in my place. They're forbidden to play Phil Collins or Bon Jovi in the studio. Any other kind of music is totally fine.
Wait,
no Bon Jovi, no Phil Collins.
I like Phil Collins.
If you come in the studio, that's fine. Just don't play it in the studio. Play it at home all you want, not in the studio. There's not a lot of rules here in the studio. You can smoke, you can drink, you can swear. Not a lot of rules. No Phil Collins, no Bon Jovi.
I could feel it.
No, you can't. Can't feel any Phil Collins here in the studio.
But so this cigar, the Patel is called the Ape Hanger, which is the big handle.
Yeah, I love the ape hangers. I think that looks really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they did is instead of doing a box press, they did a rounded cigar. They're doing it with a very, very flat head on it, which I'll kind of get to in a second. And they did it in big ring gauges. So the Ape Hanger is a 5.5 by 58. And they have a bull neck, which is a 6.5 by 66. I smoked the 58. The wrapper is a proprietary wrapper. It's a Connecticut Habano wrapper that's proprietary. Brazilian Arapiraca binder, which I thought was interesting. Honduran Nicaraguan filler. Good cigar. It's got a nice little raisin sweetness to it. It's got I would say some coffee notes in there. Coffee, roasted coffee in there. I- Did you ever, it had this note though later in there. It wasn't an herbal note. It was kind of like I've heard people call vegetal note, but it wasn't quite an herbal note. And I've heard people refer to it as vegetal, but I don't even know what vegetal is. Other than it's not as
I've heard that. It's actually a word. It's funny. It's something that remember when Tim used to be on the show?
yeah, and
He used vegetal for the first time.
that's where I've heard it from. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm like, well, dude, what? And then I saw it in some other reviews, and I kind of read what. And I think vegetal and herbal are kind of the same
I
thing.
think it's a little less sharp than an herbal note. Is kind of the way I put it. Um, I'll tell you what, it's a decent big ring gauge cigar. The flathead, you have to use. It's kind of like Skip's cigar. You
Mm-hmm.
have to use a scissor. You're gonna have to use a scissor because it's gonna be very hard to cut that cigar with the big. And I don't know how you cut that bullneck 66 without a scissor. This was the 58, and I had to use the scissor because it was so big. With a 66, you can't use a cutter on that thing. Um, so that's just something to keep in mind when you're going to smoke this. The burn wasn't perfect on it. It wasn't Paul syndrome burn,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't what it was more of a. I'd say the burn was fair to good. But it was a fiver. I still enjoyed it. The price point is about $9. You get a lot of cigar for $9 with that size. So
Nice.
good cigar. Yeah.
I smoked one from Perdomo. This is the Perdomo Reserve 10th anniversary Champagne Super Toro. Say that 10 times fast. This is a 6x60, I believe. And it is a nicely balanced Connecticut, smooth, mild sweetness, and great construction. Now, we smoked this in other sizes, haven't been a huge fan. And Brendan next door recommended I try this in the 60. And before, I think I would hesitate. Now, I've reached a point where I'm like, I don't care. Whatever the size is, whoever makes it, whatever the wrapper color is, however it's packaged, I'm going to smoke it, right? And I'm glad I did because I tell you what, for $7, you can't go wrong. I rated it a box split. I would work this into my morning smoke rotation.
So there's two things that surprised me. One is in general, I'm not big on 60 Connecticut's.
Right,
And I
right.
do like 60 ring gauge, but I would think that line, that's one of the iconic Connecticut lines over the last 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of shocked that, it just didn't hit you. I think it's a good line.
Yeah, it didn't
I
hit me
got
on the other side, like the Robusto side. And I think in years past, when I try a blend, and you can't really fault anyone for doing this, right? When you try a blend, you're like, well, I'm going to go with the smaller size because I don't know if I'm going to like it. So I don't want to get in the commitment of smoking a big cigar. Also, the smaller sizes are typically less expensive. So you're like, well, if I'm going to try it, I'm going to try a smaller size. Now, I'm not saying that stuff might be bad in the smaller size, but maybe it just doesn't hit your palate and it's not to your liking in that smaller size. So now when I go try things, I try, sample the different sizes in the line. And I'm kind of going back to some of these, like you said, Will, iconic lines that have been around for a long time. And I'm trying it in a size that I wouldn't normally try. And this is, 6x60 Connecticut is not one that I've always been a huge fan
right,
of, right? The
right.
Camacho 6x60 of way back when I wasn't a big fan of. But in that 1118, it was one of my go-to Connecticut smokes and still would be to this day if they made it the same way, now it's all different, right? Because Camacho's part of Davidoff. They've changed a bunch of the blends. They've added sizes. Christian's got his CLE 1118. To me, it's not the same. It's not the same blend. Not to say it's bad. It's not one of the ones that I would reach for. I would reach for his signature, the unbanded ones that he has, like way more, right? So in this, I'm like, I'll try it 60 ring Connecticut, whatever. And it was really good. It was really good. I liked it a lot.
That's why don't dismiss, if you haven't had a cigar in a size, we say it at times, do
Yeah.
not dismiss it. You will be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll be right, but I think
Yeah,
we
don't get me wrong. Well, I'm not saying that every time I've gone and tried a size that I wouldn't normally smoke, it's worked out, right? There were some that didn't make the cut for this review cycle that I'm not talking about because I tried a different size and I either liked it less than the other size or, you know what I mean? So, those didn't make the cut. But this one certainly did.
no, I will give that a shot. In fact, when I come up there in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to
check
give
it
that
out.
one a shot.
Yeah, I will. They have it next door.
Back to you, Will.
I smoked a cigar. It's a cigar that probably hasn't gotten a lot of buzz yet, but I think it's one of these cigars to keep an eye on, over in a brand to keep an eye on. It's a cigar called the Casa Turrent Series 1901 Gram Robusto. Have you heard of Casa Turrent?
I have not.
Have you heard of the Turrents?
No.
Okay. The Turrents basically are the premier growers of San Andreas tobacco in the world.
Hmm.
They make the Te Amo brand.
Okay.
But chances are, if you're liking that San Andreas wrapper, I'm not saying it's all coming from the Turrents, but good chance it is. They have some of the best in the world. I've heard many people talk about using the Turrent. They had a line of cigars called A Turrent that was being distributed by Altadas a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the A Turrent, they had a triple Maduro, which was very good. But since then, they've kind of they're not working with Altadas anymore. They're doing their own thing. They've launched this Casa Turrent line, which is a mostly Mexican blend. So it's a San Andreas Maduro wrapper, Mexican Cuban seed Criollo and Nicaraguan binder, and Mexican Cuban seed Criollo Nicaraguan filler. And it's made in Mexico. A 5 3/4 by 52 gram Robusto box press. This has all the makings of a cigar I'd hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a great cigar.
Hmm.
It is. It doesn't have that overpowering Mexican wrapper. It's got great. It's got those mocha notes. It kind of starts up. Mocha is kind of a cross between coffee and chocolatey notes. It kind of has more of that chocolatey sweetness up front, and then more of that roasted coffee on the back end. There's a little bit of an orange citrus tint in this thing, a hint, I'd say, which just gives it a touch of sweetness there. And I liked it, and I think there's more potential with this cigar with aging. Right now, here's the thing: when I went back and said these guys obviously know what they're doing with Mexican tobacco, and Te Amo's, I think, a different type of animal. I don't think you can compare I think what they're doing with Casa Turrent is very different than what they're doing with Te Amos. This is not a Te Amo on steroids at all. It's a box split right now, and I think it's got all the makings to go further. Casa Turrent's going to be coming out with some other lines using Mexican wrappers that are not Maduro. So I'm real curious to see what those are going to be like. I think Casa Turrent's going to be a line to watch in 2016.
Cool.
Yeah.
I had an OpusX Robusto from 2012. I picked up some I wouldn't call it vintage, right? But 4-year-old Opus from a private collector, and I love the OpusX Robusto. It's such a different smoke in the OpusX line. I think it's a lot more dialed back than some of the other OpusX sizes. And this one with age, it was spot on, man. It was tons of flavor, sweetness. He still had that touch of leather, which I think is an important component to this blend in terms of, some of the flavors that you get. Add some spice still. It was very well balanced. It doesn't pack a huge punch, but has a lot of those flavors that I think you get from that aged OpusX. So I really liked it. I called this box worthy. I think the Robusto and the OpusX is one of those great sizes, and I think people try and chase the more weird sized OpusX ones, which some of them are great. Don't get me wrong, but the good old fashioned Robusto I think is a great standby. This one came in the tin, so it had the cedar sleeve with the red band on the end. It's a great cigar.
This is just looking at this one for a second. This is the one I got a tin. Is this a 3-pack tin?
Yeah, you pick up those 3-pack tins, and you can smoke them. I think right when you get the tin, you can smoke them, and you can age them too. Now, don't age them too long because I think they adjust the filler, so it's not a powerhouse like some of the other OpusX sizes.
Okay.
And don't forget the prize pack.
You got one more cigar.
I got one more cigar, but don't forget. Can we put the picture up of the prize pack?
Yeah.
You're going to have a trivia question coming up very soon from Saga. They came up on the monitor. Look, here's their prize pack. You get one of the cigars that I smoked tonight, which I tell you what, that Lancero was definitely a box split. I think with some age, it could edge on up to box worthy. As far as the golden age goes, that is my favorite Vitola in the line, Bell of the Ball, all day long. That was an awesome, awesome smoke. So you get one of those, you get some blend number 7, and you get a Saga branded cutter, all in your humidity pack Saga bag. We'll put some Boveda in there as well when we ship it to you. And if we have any left, we'll give you a Stogie Geek sticker. And, of course, we have a lot to give away of the Smoke Naked T-shirts. So you get that whole prize pack right there. Stogie Geek sticker, T-shirt, you get the Lancero, you get a Corona Golden Age.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, Corona's great sizes too. Robusto, some blend number 7. So it's a great prize pack.
Yep, you just smoked that Lancero too. So
that Lancero was great.
Yep.
I don't know if you smoked this one. I actually picked this up at Mr. J's Amount of Smoke Shop.
I have. That's why I wanted to talk about it.
Oh, okay, good. So this is the Vivalo series exclusive of Robusto. Well, can you tell me a little more? They told me what it was, and I, of course, forgot, and I didn't have a chance to research it before the show.
Yeah, so Vivalo is a brand that is made by a gentleman by the name of Patrick Vivalo.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Vivalo, I know you actually have met him once.
Okay.
He ran Burn for a while down in for Rocky Patel down in Florida.
Okay. Was he there when I visited?
Yeah, you met with Patrick.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and he'll be on Stogie Geeks the week I'm up there.
Nice.
He'll be dialing in. So
good.
So what happened is he created this. He was down doing the tours on Rocky Patel. He got a chance to blend something. He blended this Nicaraguan Puro, and it got picked up by a couple of retailers in the Mid-Atlantic. It sold well, and then from all practical, it was very good terms. Patrick left and launched the brand on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting about this line more than what I'll say is there's 5 sizes. These are blended to the 5 sizes.
Mm-hmm.
These 5 sizes are going to smoke and I've smoked through. There's actually a 6 size, which is an event size. I've smoked through them all. Some of them are going to be better than others. That's just the way it is. It looks like you smoked the 4 7/8 by 50 Robusto.
I did. Yep.
And I smoked my favorite one actually, Bell of the Ball, is the 5.5 by 54 Robusto Grande.
Okay.
Yep.
This was a great smoke. I mean, the flavors are, they're albeit subtle. I mean, they're there, and you got to really pay attention to them. And this was the last cigar I smoked of the day as well, so kind of factor that into the, my perception of how subtle the flavors were. But it was a good cigar. It had nice flavors. Pay attention when you smoke it. It's a 5er for now, although I think this one's going to get better with age. But I thought it was a good cigar, Will.
I agree, and like I said, I think this is one of those lines that you got to find your sweet spot with it. I found the Robusto to be a little more dialed back than the Robusto Grande, and I found there's a Lonsdale which is really dialed back. But these cigars are Patrick, I think, onto something with these cigars.
I have the Lonsdale, Will. It's funny you mentioned that. I have the Lonsdale.
Yeah. Lonsdale's a good morning smoke. A little bit of spice on it, but still something you can have in the morning. Yeah.
Good. Cool. Does that we went through all of them.
We went through all of them.
Wow, cool. Now we get to do the trivia question. You ready for the trivia question?
I'm ready for it.
Let me see if I can find it. Where did it go now? Oh, so this one comes from our trivia. So if you listen to previous Stogie Geek show, when you give people the test, the test that we gave all those people, we rated it. So, Will, you know the answer to this one, but don't say it on the show. This is if you paid attention to previous Stogie Geek shows, you will know the answer. Or if you know your tobacco, you may know the answer to this question as well. How many hours of sunlight per day does a tobacco plant require? Now, a lot of people got this wrong. And I've seen this correct answer in a lot of different places. Even from Tobacconist University, will agree that there is an answer, a distinct answer to this question. It is one number we're looking for. How many hours of sunlight? It's not a range. It is one number we're looking for. How many hours of sunlight does a tobacco plant require per day?
And the final answer of the Stogie Geeks is binding. So we're not taking any debate on this.
No, there's no debating it.
Yeah. I did get this one wrong, by the way, too.
This was a tricky one.
as well as Dave Garofalo, who was our high scorer,
Mm-hmm.
got it wrong. So it is a tricky one, but it is out there.
He was mad he got this wrong, too. It was really funny.
He protested. He was
He was
protesting.
protesting it. I'm like, no, dude, that's what it says.
So yeah, if you want to know the wrong answer,
You can go listen to that.
Dave Garofalo.
That's
yeah.
right. We have said the correct answer on the show. If you send the correct answer to that question to the show at stogiegeeks.com, this is episode 175. Include that in there as well, so we don't lose the answer to your question. We will pick a random listener with the correct question, correct answer to the question even, and we'll send you that awesome Saga pack of cigars, a Stogie Geek sticker, and a Stogie Geek Smoke Naked t-shirt.
Yep.
So, well, Will, thanks as always. It was a fun Stogie Geek show as we do here every week. Make sure you check out our other shows, Stogie Geeks Shorts and Stogie Geeks News. You can find those on our website at stogiegeeks.com. And visit cigar-coop.com for all the latest cigar reviews and industry news. That concludes this edition of the Stogie Geek Show. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see everyone next week.